Ehilà ragazzi, benvenuti in questo nuovo video. Io sono Zmascoip ed oggi stiamo giocando The Stanley Parable. Questo gioco è disponibile su Steam al prezzo di tipo circa 10 euro, più di 10 euro. Comunque, abbiamo il gioco. Is never the end, is never the end, is loading. Cioè tipo la fine è mai, poi la fine sta caricando. Bello.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Siamo in game. YOLO. Posso uscire? Sì.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Qual è la sala riunioni di preciso? Forse sarà qua.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
No.
Move it, get out the way.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ok, proseguiamo. Lui ha visto ovviamente che sono andato a destra.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Possiamo
But
uscire?
eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
No.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
YOLO. Andiamo qui allora.
Look, Stanley, I
Oddio.
think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Ok, sorry. Mi butto.
But
Yeah.
in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good
You
job,
don't
Stanley.
say.
Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Mi sento offeso adesso. Ok, ora
All of
basta le
his
cavolate,
co-workers
vediamo
were
di
gone.
farlo
What could
seriamente.
it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Esattamente. Cos'è sta cosa?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Sembra tipo il mio laboratorio di fisica a scuola sta stanza. Usciamo subito perché mi fa star male.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, ok. Wow. Ecco, esattamente una scuola. Qua c'è tipo il nulla, tutto anonimo. E poi questa è la stanza del preside, tipo tutto arredato, bello, sistemato.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course,
E io come faccio a saperlo?
by
No,
simply
boh.
pushing random buttons
ecco.
on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly
Mamma mia.
opened passageway.
Stupefacente, veramente, dai. No, basta, cioè solo per questo gioco merita il Game of the Year. Il drago d'oro, torniamo indietro nel tempo, cioè, non lo so. Vabbè, sarà un gioco più vecchiotto, non lo so di quando è. Oh my god, that textures.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Io ho paura di proseguire seriamente.
Stanley walked straight ahead
scritto?
through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape. Fuggiamo. No, vabbè, dai. Sì, ma io sta cosa che mi si chiudono le porte dietro e tutte cose si accendono appena cammino io mi fa paura seriamente. Ciao.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
So. Ah, devo passare qui. Silenzio. Telecamera.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Oh my god. Qua non c'è nient'altro, vero? Cos'è? Quella schermata è andata in BSOD, non lo so. Ascensore?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Premiamo tasti random! Sì! Non succede niente. Vabbè. Cos'è? Abstergo confirmed. Di già un nuovo Assassin's Creed, ma basta. Dove vado now? Nel laboratorio di tester. Ci sono 1000. Mind controls idle awaiting input. Aha.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Sono morto? È tutto nero.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Non dirlo al no.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Beh, come andrà a finire lo scopriremo nel prossimo video. Però intanto, se questo video vi è piaciuto, vi invito a lasciare un bel mi piace. Se avete qualcosa da dire, scrivetemelo qui sotto tra i commenti, e se non siete ancora iscritti, iscrivetevi, così noi ci rivediamo al prossimo video. Ciao ragazzi!